This is Adam Bird, and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
Little technical difficulty there for me, Adam. I didn't turn my battery on my recorder. It happens, but you got the intro part done right, and that's what's perfect. Hey, man, thanks for coming on. These things often take longer than we want. I'm always thinking about the editorial decisions. And as long as people are talking to me about who I'm having on or who I should or shouldn't have on, I know that I'm having a conversation that's bigger than just what I'm doing editorially. Right. Do you? And so for those, you guys should just look up Adam Bird. Go to Heroes Media Group and look all that stuff up. I'm not going to get into a lot of his background because Adam's been on 100 podcasts, but he's a fellow veteran podcast. And I would say at the very top of Podcast Mountain for veterans, it's us, Yeah. Jocko, and God bless guys like Mike Ritlin and those kind of the guys, but they're not in the chalet where we are. They're just not, So everybody should know Adam is a very well accomplished podcaster in the veteran space. But let's go back to the editorial decision thing. How do you process that? What do you do to manage and make sure you're making good editorial decisions for your show?
Pray. Oh my God. It's an art form, right? And you take each show, whether it's my show or any of the other shows on the network that I'm working on or producing, you take each of them uniquely, because different things. Just looking, you have your set things that you look for as far as editing in each episode. And I think, you and I, as long as we've been in this business, we could probably look at a set of sound waves or a section of a show and pick out a sound wave. They said, there, or there's a click noise here. And 9 out of 10 times we'd get that right. So I think editorially, big things I look for is like clicking noises. I look for ums and ahs. I'm guilty of it myself. And then just like little taps every now or smacking. The biggest thing I look for in editing is when somebody smacks, like, well, for some reason, it's just one of those things that's just like, oh, we're going to get rid of that right there, So that's really kind of it. I don't know if that answered the question or not, but.
Yeah, the teeth suck too.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Yeah. You're right about all that stuff. And the editing part that is a service to the audience and to the guest is very, very important. We want to make sure we make the best representation of the guest as possible without changing at all what they say.
Right.
But I'm talking specifically about the guests themselves, like how you pick who to talk to, who to have on, because it's not just who you want to talk to, right? There's what serves the show. Are you cashing in a favor? Are you planting a seed for the future? Are you giving a chance to a young emerging all of that?
I'm with my particular show, right, that I'm doing right now or have been doing the last couple of years. I'm a firm believer that you can learn from everybody, right? So if they have an interesting story, I'll interview them. If I think I can get at least 20, 30 minutes of conversation with them and not like, one word answers with them. And I usually do a pre-call prior to the show, because the last thing you want is to go into an interview blind about somebody that you're really maybe not sure of or not really know. And you ask a question, they're like, yes. All right, you want to elaborate on that for me a little bit? Or, you know what I mean? It's like
I don't mind working, but don't make me work that hard.
Yeah,
please.
I don't want to drag. I'm a firm believer. Like when I'm looking for somebody to come on the show, I'm looking for kind of like the 90, what I call the 90-10 rule, right? If you're in sales, it's like 80-20, where I'm listening 80 to 90% of the time and maybe talking 10% of the time. And when I do talk, I'm guiding you in the direction to where I want you to go.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately talking about your story. And so the listeners of the show can learn from your experiences.
you've interviewed, I mean, Jesus, how many episodes have you done? Would you
Yeah.
say? Do you have a number across all of your different shows and everything else?
I think shows that I've either hosted or have produced myself over the last probably 10, 12 years, over 1,500.
Yeah.
You know, and it's probably closer to the 2,000 range with shows that I've just handled or produced myself.
That's why, like, when I say that we're at the top of the shit in the chalet on, veteran podcast mountain, I mean, I'm not joking. This is, we have created a lot of content.
Yeah.
And built incredible machines. I always say, like, the Break It Down show is such that I can say, hey, would you be on my show? I'm Pete A. Turner, executive producer and host of the Break It Down show. Here's the show bona fides. If they get to that second paragraph, they basically say yes, if they're in the mood to talk. It doesn't matter who it is, how famous they are. And that's different than a lot of people who are trying to still figure out how to book guests. Like, it's, I can look at someone like, oh, they've got a book out. Like, there's a guy right now, had him on the show yesterday. He wrote this fantastic book right here. I'll even give it a plug. Look at this. You got to get this book called Mine. And it's got two authors. And the guy I had on yesterday was Michael Heller. And it's just about possession and ownership. This guy's doing a national book tour right now. And, he comes on the Break It Down show because of the show that I've built. And when I say this is not to promote me. This is to talk about what we have done, what we've created. You've created a platform for veterans to have podcasts. You've helped them produce them. You've got your own show. Are you, okay, so this is the thing, right? Like, in a lot of ways, I'm disappointed because we got in so early. We were so ahead of everything,
Right.
But we also haven't had that rocket fuel that takes us into the stratosphere. Like someone like Jocko, right? Like Jocko's in the chalet with us because of his notoriety.
Right.
However, we're in the chalet because of the repetition, the quality, the knowledge, all of these things. We've compiled a massive work that makes us, total downloads. What do you want to go with? Any number, how many countries listen? All these things. What are your thoughts on that balance between, holy shit, I can't believe I've done all this opportunity versus, still working?
Honestly, I don't look at it.
Okay.
It doesn't cross my mind. It's one of those where, I wake up every day and it's like, all right, what can I do better? Or how can I help somebody? I mean, for me, it's all about, the purpose is helping other people get to where they want to go, right? Whether it's through my show directly or helping one of the other shows on the network or whatever that case is. You talk downloads and whatnot. Personally, I don't think there's a universal definition for downloads on shows. Some people may agree with me. I can think of, you and I could probably think of a half a dozen people that don't agree with that comment, and that's okay. I personally, I don't care. But when I don't think about that, because for me, if I get too wrapped up in that, then I start feeling like, oh, well, am I really doing anything that's effective or whatnot? And the answer is deep down, yes, because I've been doing it for as long as I have. Am I where I want to be? No, not at all. Am I making steps to get to where I want to be? Every single day. And I think once I stop focusing on that, well, I'm not where I want to be, but and is really anybody listening? Well, I'm going into HMG's going into their 6th year now. It'll be 6 years this September. Yeah, crazy. Yeah. And I had a platform prior to that for several years. So HMG alone, we started off with like 3 shows, and we're over 35, I think, that are on the network right now, and we got another 5 that are coming on in April and May. So it's like, am I doing something? I must be doing something right because we're still here. I really like, that's kind of, when you focus on that, everything else is like, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, well, this is that balance, and this is where that credibility comes from. If you want to know how to start a show, you can talk to guys like us because we understand what it takes to do it. Like, we're not trying to figure out how to edit. We're not trying to figure out how to post shows and, how to just build repetition. We've got that conquered and then some. We show other people to do it. And you're right. Like, if I was to take, if I was to sit you and I down in 2011 and say, this is the ride that you're about to go on, right?
Yeah.
You'd be like,
Yeah.
sign me up. I'll do that in a second.
Yeah.
But you are like, oh gosh, it's so hard to get up this stupid mountain.
Right. Yeah. But the process of it was, Pete, there's been times, and I think you and I've had this conversation before over the years. There's been times, at least a half a dozen times, where I've thought about, okay, that's it. I'm done throwing it up. Peace out. I'll go back to corporate America, whatever. And then later on that day, you get an email, you get a phone call, you get a text message or something. And it's just like, okay, I need to keep doing what I'm doing. And it's funny because like you and I look at you because you do far more, I think, than I do. You're doing shows every day. God bless you for it. I don't know how you do it. I have the face for radio. So it's one of those, doing this, on the video and stuff, I just started really kind of doing some type of video stuff just within the last 6 months because I was, I'll say that I was shy. Most people will laugh when they hear that, but yeah.
Well, shy for sure, but also you and I know what it takes to do these it's a big leap. It's taken me until the last episode yesterday to get these cameras up and going. And I've been working on this for months. Yes, I could plug it in and make it work, but I know what it takes to make it replicatable. I can't take this rig on the road yet. I have to figure out what it takes to do that. I'm not there. I can't make my camera stop focusing. I thought I turned autofocus off. These are all the little things that bug us because it's not how it needs to be. Like we have this thing where we know what the expectations are. And so jumping to video, I've done it, I don't know, maybe a year now almost or close to it.
Right.
But it's been a long learning process. However, I've also put out 5 shows a week, like you said, and so you've got to add in this little wedge of capacity, but you have a plate that's full. So something has to come off, and for me, a lot of it was social media. Like I'm just not going to be that active. And when I am, I'm mostly going to be jokes and pictures of my cat and the occasional snarky comment about something political or whatever, but I'm not going to promote the show across 20 different channels because it's just not worth my damn time.
Right. It takes time. Like, people ask me like, hey, I'm thinking about getting into podcasting. Great. It's a part-time job. And they're like, whoa, wait.
Yeah.
What do you mean it's a part-time job? It's like, you think you're just going to get behind a microphone and talk for however many minutes and think the one thing I love, I love this. You'll enjoy this. Hey, I got this great idea for a podcast. Of course you do.
Yes.
Nobody else does.
Yeah.
And then you are ignorant enough to think that 10,000 people, 100,000 people are going to listen to your very first episode. Bless your heart. Because if it happens, great. Do I think it's going to?
Yeah, this is a very good point. I wanted to mention, by the way, you should have this guy in your show. He's a veteran. He's a former SF guy. Jason Casper wrote this book, Enemies of My Country. God damn, this book is good. I mean, look, you have to like, not far-fetched, just fetched versions of reality with operators and what they do and what they're allowed to do, that kind of stuff. But that's this genre. That's the action book genre. So if you guys we're going to have him on, I think probably in a week or two, but Enemies of My Country, it's fantastic. I can't wait to see what happens in the end. And then everybody in general, please hit that subscribe button over there and the bell so you'll know when I go live. It's best if you watch on YouTube. We're trying to build the audience there because, hey, they pay. You want to know how to monetize? You pay. Now let me come back to you on this. Okay, so I've got this idea, and then I hit him harder than you do, Adam, because I don't want to mess with the conversation. And I say, listen, if you want to do a PR tool or a marketing tool or a networking tool, okay, great. Then you should do a podcast. Realize that that's going to take 10 hours per episode. So however long, I'm only going to do 15-minute episodes. Okay. It's going to take 10 hours per episode to do what you want to do. And you probably still won't be done with the work. But let me tell you about my idea. Like, I don't care about your idea. What I care is can you show up week after week with those 10 hours? If you can't, then, I mean, great. Tell me your idea. I'll listen to you, but I'm not honestly going to listen to you, Right. And I love it when people approach me. I want them to approach me. I want to help them, but I can't help them take their idea from here to there unless they know those tactical things day to day. Here's how you get up. Here's how you prepare. Here's how you get the show out the door. Here's how you do post-production, you know, on and on and on and on. If you can't line all that out, then you shouldn't have a podcast,
Right.
you know, or just call it a hobby podcast and don't put any kind of expectation on it. Just do it because you love it.
Right. Or, and let me add to that,
yeah.
or you have somebody, I think the hardest part of doing a podcast, let me rephrase this. The hardest part of doing a podcast for new people is learning the editing and because that can be very time consuming. Showing up, you can, if you're good at talking and talking with people, interviewing people, great. It's where we lose people is where we lose people when they come like, oh, I got to do edit. I don't know how to do an edit. Great.
Oh no, we keep it raw, Adam. We keep it raw. We keep it raw.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Or hire somebody to do it. That's the quickest way to do it, in my opinion. But yeah, it's absolutely hysterical. People just like, hey, I want to start a podcast. Okay, cool. Well, like you said, plan on 10 hours a week at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
And longer when you're first getting started, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's just not that easy.
I haven't thought about this in a while, Pete, and it's funny because I think back, now that you're talking about this, I'm thinking back of like the first time I learned how to edit up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, like watching YouTube or calling people. Not, I wasn't calling people at 2 in the morning, but like calling people that were in the radio business. I was talking to people on terrestrial radio. Oh, how do you edit audio and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And it was,
yeah. And then the thing is if you're going to do that work and if you pay me, I will help you make your show better. I'm glad to give you advice and everything. Here's things, but I'm going to tell you things that you don't want to hear. Like, first off, if you think you've got a good idea for a podcast, why don't you, here's the thing I do. This is how nice of a guy I am, Adam. I'll say, you want to start a podcast. Why don't you do this? Why don't you start booking your best guests, bring them on my show and just do one a month and see, I'll do all of the work.
Right.
You just have to book the person, do some of the pre-production, everything else I'll help you with. And if you can do 6 of those, then those are your training wheels and we'll get you up and running. You know, listen, and you know what like a sacrifice that is in terms of time. And I am asking for their best guests because I don't want half-assed guests on my show.
Listen, everybody, Pete's got a heart of gold right now because I can guarantee I don't do that. I might spend 15 minutes with somebody and do like and I'll do 15 minutes, and that's me feeling froggy, doing a mock interview. And at the end of that interview, I've probably talked more people
that's your job
out of doing podcasts than I have actually doing it.
Well, but the thing is I'm doing the same thing. I mean, my heart is golden, but I'm also putting a dragon in front of them that they have to slay. Well, like, why don't you set up 6 episodes with your absolute best people, not your mom's cousin, none of that kind of thing. Who are the best people you'd want to lead off with? Because you can have them on again.
Right.
By the way, if you know them, and then I'm like, just call me when you're ready. And this is no knock on anybody I've done this with because it doesn't always work out. But that's sort of the point of the exercise is, can you do the work to contact somebody, set up the calendar the way I want it set up, and have something on the schedule, and then make it to the show and have the show. Again, I've had people try this and fail at it. I've had people try it and do it great. I've set up things and invited them on.
Yeah.
But the universal value in all these things is, if you're going to have a podcast, this is a skill you have to master. I'm creating an environment where all you have to do is to focus on that pre-production part and the fun part of doing the interview. Right. So if you can't do those things, then that's your indicator of your idea is great, but you don't have the energy and time to put into it. And that's really what it comes down to is resources. You know, do you have 10 hours or can you buy 10 hours? And if you can't do both of those things, then you're going to struggle to have a podcast.
Absolutely. 100% agree. 100% agree. And I like the way that you do it, and you know, maybe someday I'll start I'll start following Pete's lead on this, because honestly, it's like we're just being honest with you. I mean, Pete and I have been doing this for a long time, and the last thing we want is we're the type of guys we're not going to screw anybody over.
No, never.
And we don't sugarcoat anything. We're you know, we might I think we've both been called blunt. Or you know, we may be a little direct sometimes, but we're being honest with you. So at least you can respect the fact that, hey, we're not going to steer you down a path that one, you either can't afford or something that's just going to be a waste of your time in the long run.
The other thing I've been telling folks who are on the business side who want to have a podcast, when I say business side, they're in business and they want to have a podcast to create more audience and build their brand. And again, I remind them this is an entire new business you're starting. However, if you want to do it, why don't you instead go find a podcast that best represents who you are and what you want to do and just sponsor them? They've done the work, just go, look, I want to work with you. I'm going to give you whatever, $1,000 a month.
Right.
Which, by the way, is a bargain if you consider how much work goes into a podcast 4 times, 5 times a month. And just say, I want to make sure you survive. I want access to the show, and I want to be able to bring some guests on occasionally. I don't have to be there, but I want to be able to sponsor this thing and be a big, proud part of your voice. If you are in the business of looking for things like a podcast and you don't look around to see who you can employ already as a podcast, you're crazy. You're crazy to start your own podcast. Yeah. Go find someone who's better at this, learned all the lessons, has all the gear, has figured it out, and go put them to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, especially people that got large audience, whether you have a large audience or not, or you have an audience that's just very interactive.
Yeah,
no sense of, I don't want to sound cliches, of recreating the wheel, but if you have, like you said, if you have a business and you're we need a podcast, how about you sponsor somebody and do that for a year? I'd even challenge you to do it for a year. And then after that year, if you feel like you still need a podcast on your own, well, maybe look into that then or branch out. But
yeah.
And if you're looking for sponsors, you got 2 guys right here. We'll be more. No,
well, you think about this. If you're going to pay $1,000 a month to someone to sponsor their show, and I think you could get sponsorship slots on most shows for $1,000 a month.
Right.
And I'm not talking about some little tiny show, a show that's there. One, you get to bring your network into something that's powerful and it's already set up. Like that is already an enormous value. But 2, you're paying for, I don't know, let's call it $12,000 for 50 plus hours or 50 plus episodes worth of stuff, which you can then crack into smaller products and just have your name all over it.
Right.
For $12,000.
Yeah. I don't know, but I think, if you're a business that actually has product too, whether it's,
right.
I'll use my other company, HMG Beverage, shameless plug. If you got a coffee or you have tea or you have, whatever the case, t-shirts, hats, or any type of product that you could do like a giveaway with or something like that, whether it's a giveaway or one thing I like, obviously I don't have this set up right here, but when doing video, having product placement in the videos and stuff like that. When you're sponsoring a show that can do product placement, whether it's a cup or a bag or a flag or whatever the case is, that's volumes. And for $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 for the year and 50 plus shows. You're getting a ton of exposure that you normally would not get. And what I like about it is knowing that I'm driving traffic to a business that I not only believes in me, but that a product that I believe in. Let me ask you this, Pete, because I'm sure you've gone through this over the years. Have you ever turned a client away that wanted to sponsor your show?
Yeah. I mean, if it's not my thing, I won't do it. There's a couple of, I don't have any right here in front of me. Oh, yeah, I do. This isn't a sponsorship. This is more of an ambassadorship, but Lloyd's of Leadville, which is a CBD cream kind of product. I rub that on my knuckles and stuff, but I use it every day. Like right here, I'm actually surprised. Oh, that's because I traveled with it. But I'll be rubbing this on my different joints while I'm here because all these things, they hurt my back. I'll rub it on my back while I'm sitting here and doing this because I use Lloyd's of Leadville CBD products, So I'll say yes if I believe in it. I'll say yes if I think there's a potential there where okay, you're fledgling, but you have a budget. I'm not going to say no to that just on the surface if it's something that I kind of see. But I've had people offer me money to do things, and I'm like, I just not. Here's my biggest problem, Adam. If you're going to come to me and approach me and pitch me to pay you for a service or to gain access to my show, you'd better know what my show is about.
Right.
If you're just cold pitching me and then that's it, and you come in and you make the ask up front, it ain't going to happen. And I have no problem directly communicating to you, hey, listen, unless you know my show, we're not going to have a conversation. Go back.
I love the ones where you get hey, I got this great product for your listeners. They'll love it. And it's like, all right, well, cool. What's it about? And it's like, underwater basket weaving. Well, what the heck?
Yeah.
That has
Yeah.
nothing to do with my show or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah. 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 These are the challenges of podcasting, and maybe this stuff is boring to a lot of folks, but I think it's interesting, and I think it's helpful to someone who's on the fence about this, or I've got a podcast and I'm struggling. Well, then hire me to help you look at your podcast and say, here are 15 things you can do, but let's start with the top three. Here are the areas where you can make it work better.
I think podcasting right now, Pete, is as long as you and I have, kind of been grandfathered into this business. I don't even think we're at the. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that podcasting has even hit the tip of the iceberg yet. With it, as long as it's been around, like 2004 or 5 time frame, kind of before it was called podcasting, I still think we're still maybe 4 or 5 years ahead of its time.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've got the ads running nonstop from Spotify about the Obama and Boss podcast, and that's adorable. They've got a podcast, they've got an audience, and people will probably listen to it and everything else. So now we've got this celebrity and big. Remember when you couldn't get a big media company to even talk to you about podcasting?
Yeah.
So now they're doing what we were doing 10 years ago.
Right.
And that's cute. You've got an audience, people will listen, and they should do that. However, the real stuff is still coming. Right. Here's where I think it's going. Then I want to hear where you think it's going. I can see all the big content, Star Wars, whatever TV show, I'll say Lost because it's not really around anymore. That way we don't make anybody mad. All of the extra content that can be created off of that, whether it's behind the scenes or it's side stories, all of that stuff can be housed inside of podcasts. And because there's not enough content, you can't continue to just make large scale TV shows. I mean, because how many streaming platforms are there? So taking this smaller scale production cost challenge and putting it to work to amplify and give your audience more of what they want. Like I'm bananas for All Creatures Great and Small. They just started it up again, and I watch it on BBC, and there's like 7 episodes in a season, and I'm desperate for more of it. I miss it. And so podcasting can, for a small amount of money, fill that void compared to having to have like the whole thing come on and make it an entire production. What are your thoughts?
No, I think you're on point with that. It's I think I've gotten frustrated with TV, and even I'll go as far as say movies, because it seems like they're always kind of recreating the wheel with, all the Batman movies or all the, I'll say, superhero movies and whatnot. And I'm not saying they're not bad per se, but it's kind of like, can you guys come up with something, I don't know, different maybe? Yeah. What I mean? Something that's maybe interesting that I haven't really heard before. And I think that's the beauty of the podcasting, is because you can have 4 or 5 different sports shows.
Right.
They're all going to be different.
Yeah.
There's not one that's the same. You're going to have 1,000 different business shows. They're all going to be different in their own right. And I think that's what's really cool about being in this business, is that we're very unique in it. Even though there's what, several thousand podcasts that start every day or every month or whatever it is. Most of them don't get past episode 5 before they just vanish, and those are the ones that Pete and I were talking about before. We're like, hey, I got this great idea of a podcast. 5 episodes later, they're like, man, I'm not doing this anymore. So I just like the idea. I like the idea of where we're at right now. Where do I think it's going? I think it's only going to get better. I think, look at the technology we're on. What we're on right now. We didn't have this 10, 12 years ago when we first started.
That's right.
What was it? I think it was Google Hangouts when they owned YouTube, and that was still tied together at that time. I mean, that's how long ago that was.
It's so true. Yeah.
So it's crazy to see, because now everybody's like, oh, we have these podcast services, and we have this and we have that, and there's so many things that are just kind of blossoming, and it's great for the business. But we're not even close to like.
Well, you look at the functionality of StreamYard, which we're using right now. That's this program right here. And it pushes live out to, I don't know, for right now, 5 channels for me. So 2 YouTube channels, 3 Facebook channels. I could push out to LinkedIn, but LinkedIn can't really get its head wrapped around allowing live streaming across the board. So I would, for whatever reason, I can't put, and these are the areas where they can improve instantly. I can't push to Instagram live, although I can push to Facebook. So like, and there's a workaround, but I'm not going to figure that shit out. Like I'm paying you a lot of money, figure that shit out. And then the other thing is I can't control your volume. I can't control your audio. I can't EQ you from my end. And how do I produce a show if I can't control your audio? You know, how about turning a dial or a knob or a slider to make your shot lighter or darker, depending on what I've got, you know? So all of these things are coming, and StreamYard's fantastic, but even it can be improved. Like right now, I've got 2 cameras right here. Here's a camera. Here's a camera. This is already blowing our minds that we can do this. But,
I'm so jealous, just FYI.
What's that?
I'm so jealous that you guys.
I know it's believe me, it's been a process. It has been a process to figure this stuff out. I mean, but even still, like, I wish there were capabilities within StreamYard, but look at where we are. I mean, wow. So now I can publish live. That live sits on Facebook, YouTube, whatever, already published. That's a free publishing moment. And then I can put it out on the podcast channel. I've already done 3 different products, and I've really only published 1.5 to get to that 3, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I think the one thing about it is you think of stuff like this where you're doing multi-camera angles. You think of like a TriCaster or like, you know, does Pete have somebody in the van parked in his driveway right now working?
He looks like me.
You know, that's not the case. And I think, you know, 4 or 5 years from now, it's even going to the technology of what we have here. And what Pete was talking about was multiple camera angles, easily mobile units that you can go and do. Like, you know, I did a live or not a live. I did an interview last week in southern Pennsylvania at a in a barn. I was in a barn and doing equine therapy. And I'm looking around. I was like, God, this would be great setup. The lighting's cool. It's got that rustic look. And then I'm looking at my stuff, and I was like, I got handheld mic. I was like, and then I was thinking back when I first started, it was like I had a cell phone that had a microphone that was hooked into that, and you're recording onto your cell phone or onto your laptop or whatever you had at the time. And I'm like, oh my God, look how far this business has come in just 10 years.
I just had another great idea for a podcast. I'm not going to tell it to you because we just complained about that. And by the way, I want to say this, everybody's listening. We're telling you things from our point of view. I want to hear your idea. I am desperate for you to create something, whether you're painting or drawing or playing your guitar, whatever it is. And I know Adams does too. I want you to create. So when we say these things, we're putting you in a position where you've got to recognize, is this your thing? Like you can say, hey, I want to go play rec league softball and be in the A league. Okay, great. Here's what A league means. You know, it means however many hours, you know, and it's like, it's the reality of what we do, right? Because of the distance that we have gone up this mountain and the ability that we have to create, we owe it to you to say, if you want to do that, here are the things, these are the challenges way back behind us that you have to overcome to get where we are.
Right.
You know?
It goes back to our purpose, and not that I'm speaking for you, Pete, but you and I have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And we've had conversations. I think the purpose goes back to helping others. What's the purpose? The purpose is helping other people get to where they want to go. Because if we do that allows us to do what we've done and been blessed to do for so many years.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to get after this. And it is all about helping. How can I help you do this? If you want to get PR and you don't want to do a podcast, that's going to cost you, I don't know, at a minimum $2,000 a month and probably closer to 10. You know, I mean, like that's what PR costs. So you can find a PR up and comer, but now you're sacrificing experience and a powerful network for less cash. I mean, these things just cost money. A press release nationwide is $1,500 to push it out. You know, that's just how it is. So you look at the cost, a podcast might be the answer, you know, but you've got to determine like who the partner is now, you know. Right. Don't go grab a podcast that's emerging and has 6 episodes because they haven't proven that they can do this. 25 episodes, maybe that's the cutting point.
Right.
But there's a lot of opportunities. There's so many opportunities to either use a podcast or to put your podcast to work for somebody else. And then, by the way, as a podcaster, we should be pushing out to people that we recognize that are a good fit for what we do and say, listen, I don't need you to have a podcast. Let me take your derelict podcast, or let me take this podcast concept you have, and let's work together and make it happen. I will do the work. You have the product,
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. I want to change gears and ask you a couple other questions. First off, everybody, by the way, taste freedom in every cup. HMGbeverage.com. Yeah, definitely go there and check it out. By the way, smash the whatever that button is. There it is, right there. Smash that subscribe button on YouTube, please. This is how you help. This is how you do it. I also have a PayPal link. You can kick in money each month, and this is like a Patreon, but Patreon's sort of a bad partner because they change rules on people, and they take a bigger cut. PayPal just takes a transaction fee. So if you want to help me in particular, I'm going to have Adam do this next, but if you want to help me in particular, that PayPal link, which you can get at breakitdownshow.com, and just subscribing on YouTube and watching on YouTube. If you're going to watch on YouTube. You can watch on your podcast channel. That's what you want to do. That's no problem. It'll be there. But YouTube is where I'd like you to go, at least for now, until I change my mind. Adam, how can people best support the Heroes Media Group and your efforts and your channels and shows?
Man, just follow us on social media. We're on all the platforms at Heroes Media GRP. And then check out the website, heroesmediagroup.com. If you have content that you want to put out, you've written a story, or you're looking to potentially do a show or need to be a guest on a show, by all means, we're open to the idea of it. Just reach out to us.
I got to say something else on our behalf, because we're a couple of good dudes. If you have an idea and you're like, man, these guys are speaking a lot of truth, and you want us to help you, I'm going to bend over backwards to give you a great deal. I'm like, I shouldn't do this. I cannot help myself. And I'm positive Adam's the same way. I'm like, you know what? If you want to do this, here's a number that I'll hate doing it for, but I really want to see you create. That's how bad I am at this business. I'm so desperate to help someone. I feel so bad if I don't, if you can take that truth, like when I'm like, I don't care about your idea, because guess what? Nobody cares about your idea, right? You have to get over that hurdle. And if you still want to do it, then good. Cut a check for this amount of money for whatever work it is, and I'll help you. I will help you. I'm desperate to do it, and I will give you a discount every single time. I'll tell you what it should cost, and then it's going to be, I don't know, half of that probably. So anyhow.
Yeah.
Adam.
No, I'm laughing because it's like, there's been mornings where I've woken up, I was like, how am I still in business? You know what I mean? It's like you charge really, and again, I've said this on I've mentioned the word purpose several times on this show, and it's really, that's what it's about. It's not, is the money nice? Yeah, absolutely. Especially when the bills come around, but it's not about the money. If I keep my focus on the purpose, the money will always follow. And I think that's why Pete and I have been doing this for so long, because guys like Pete and I that have been doing this, we legitimately want to help other people get to where they want to go. And which is why we're still doing what we're able to do, is because we've put the purpose first. And I've always said, I had a good friend of mine, it said, if you put purpose first, profit will always follow. And once I started switching my mindset to that, life got a whole lot sweeter. And it wasn't like, oh, the money just started pouring in. That wasn't it. I just found more satisfaction in life, not worrying about chasing a dollar and just focusing on helping other people. And life was more fulfilling.
Yeah, I mean, like when I do that PayPal thing, a little bit of money would help. It would give me a budget to advertise. Like, that's honestly the biggest thing I need help with right now. Is just, okay, I got this gear. That was all done by fans. They helped me buy all this gear, and that's fantastic. But also, like, there's the algorithm you're always trying to fight and beat. And one of the best ways to beat it is by having an ad budget, and it's just like, okay, I'm already doing all this work. Can you guys kick in $5 or $10, 20? Would you buy me a sandwich every month? Okay, great. I'm going to put that money right back into the show.
Right.
So the thing that you love, the guy that you love, you're going to invest in, and I'm going to put that right where I know where it needs to go. I know. And that's why it's so great to be able to build a fan base that appreciates what you do, and that are so, I mean, I know this is going to resonate with you. I have met the best people ever through the podcast. I mean, it's blown me away over and over again. And it is relentless. So many incredible people where I'm like, I don't even have time to spend enough time with all these people, and I'm desperate to do it because I love them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, pre-COVID or pre-apocalypse,
Sure.
whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
going to events. I was big on, we had several sports shows and we were huge on going to sporting events and whatnot. And we had people come up to us. I had no idea who these people were. Hey, aren't you so-and-so? Who wants, I'm thinking like it's like a bill collector, like tracking me down or something. Like, oh yeah, we've listened to your shows or we've done this and that. And I was like, oh, cool. Hey, welcome. And that's yeah, it's one of the coolest things is just meeting people for the first time that have watched, listened, or wanted to be a part of, heard about it, and they come up and shake your hand or they want I've had people literally, it's like, hey, can I get a picture with you?
Yeah.
I guess, sure.
Yeah.
It's weird, but at the same time, it's like, all right, that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I was walking through the airport one time and I always wear a Break It Down show shirt because I'm not going to rep somebody else's brand unless they're very good friends of mine. And so I'm walking through with one of my shirts on and someone points at me and goes, da da da, which is my musical signature. And I'm like, no shit. He didn't know who I was because it was a podcast only era, right? So he didn't know me. He just knew I had the shirt on and he recognized the logo. And I was like, holy shit. How did that just happen?
That's cool. That's cool. Love it.
I want to, there's a couple things that are kind of weird. So you and I are very, very, very successful in this business. And you're so right. When you get better at recognizing all of the value of what you do, I mean, we're raising money for charity for SaveTheBrave.com like crazy, in part through the show. The next thing we're going to do at 2:00 is we're going to have a comedian on as we try to get the Save the Brave and Bastards Canteen comedy room going. And COVID slowed that down by about a year. But we've been working on building this thing, so there's all these areas where you're partnering with people, and there's all kinds of storytelling stuff that, I'm learning how to get involved in those things. And there's so many things that don't involve direct money into my pocket, but have so much value. And this is one of the things too. So yeah, PR machine, networking machine, marketing machine, but also opportunity machine. Good grief. And it takes time to get after money. Can I go sell ads for $25 a show? Sure. But why am I doing that? I mean, that's not enough money for me to go out and make 25 cold calls. I'd rather get on bigger things. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 100%. There was a time where I was making enough money on the show where it was paying my mortgage.
Right.
And then I took a break from it. So when I took that break, naturally, I told those sponsors, like, hey, I'm taking a break from the show for a while. Don't worry about it. And then when I came back on, I didn't monetize it. And I'm not with my show. And this is, I'm throwing myself under the bus right now, but whatever. I'm not consistent enough. One of my biggest pet peeves with shows is consistency. And I say that I'm saying it probably more for myself right now. And it's because I'm on Pete's show that I need to get more consistent, but it's that consistency. And there's just so many, I don't even know what to say. There's just so many things with this. And let me say this real quick, Pete. Thanks for having me on, man. This has been
sure. But the consistency thing, I can say this to you at your level, that's hard. And there's something in the desire that's missing for you, right?
I don't know if it's so much the desire for me to do the show as it is that I'm wanting to continue to grow the network, adding more shows, and then helping those shows succeed. Do you know what I mean? But with that, there's the kind of a fine line there, though, because if I'm not doing a show, then how can I kind of help or teach others and kind of practice what I preach, so to speak, if that makes sense? So I have to be doing shows in some form or fashion, whether it's for the network or my own personal show, The Decision Hour, or whatever. I got to get back into doing a weekly show at a bare minimum, at least a weekly show.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's kind of like, well, why should we listen to you? You haven't done any shows. Well, it's because I'm busy helping all these other shows.
You've brought up a key KPI is when you truly reach max capacity for yourself, and you have to find other heads for the many hats that you wear. I've got the problem. You've got the problem. I mean, I'm technical directing my own show here. Hello, yeah, I'm the guy pushing the buttons, right? Because I don't have enough money to hire a head for that, that hat, and
Right.
so I wear it.
Right.
And you're talking about you're trying to build a bigger business, but to do that, it's like I don't want to be in social media, but I do post shows on social media because you have to, because it's just all about discoverability.
It's the necessary evil
Right.
thing. We end up doing things that we don't want to do, or the things that we don't like to do.
Yeah.
But until we get the funds to find, as you say, that person to fill that hat, we're stuck doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, don't beat yourself up too much. I know you'll figure it out and continue to go forward. And there'll always be too many hats for your head, So I was in the doldrums a couple weeks ago, and then I just lit off on an inspired run. I mean, I was like, man, this is awesome. What the heck was I thinking a week ago, 2 weeks, whatever it was. Like, I am going to slow the pace of the show down. I've already decided that. Once I get to 1,000 episodes, I'm going to back off. But I had to decide what I was going to do.
Right.
And it's not that I'm stopping the show at all, but I'm going to take some of that creative time and I'm going to put it into other creative endeavors so I can continue to grow the bigger show. So it won't, I mean, look, 5 shows was great. And the idea behind that primarily was to just outwork the competition, to outproduce, to say, look what I can do. And now I'm having opportunities where like work on this with me, work on that with me. And these are longer term things and it just takes more time. And so, that's one of my areas where my desire and my capacity aren't in alignment because I've got more to do and I don't have enough heads.
Right.
I need to collect some heads.
That's so true. But you're talking about, and you are the master of doing, shows 5 days a week. And, the opportunities, you kind of hit on it there. The opportunities or the doors that have opened for us because of what we do is really priceless.
And I guess if I was going to characterize it, I can now knock on better doors.
Right.
Or doors with more opportunity. Like this door, I want to knock on. The other ones, I was just knocking to see what would happen. Right. Now I know where there are good doors that have opportunity. And even if it's not this time.
You get to pick and choose. And you're kind of in a position where, like, if something gets presented to you, you're like, you don't feel obligated to take it. You're like, no, it's not for me. Like, I got other things going on. And that's a great position to be in.
It is. It is. It's really good. And it's a valuable position. I mean, that's where you talk about how do you monetize? Well, how do you create value? Where is your show valuable? And in this case, access to my show means that you have to be at a certain level now. I'll have my friends on and people that have no audience because it pleases me to do that. Right. But I don't owe it to anybody to have them on. That might sound a little bit arrogant, but it's not. It's about managing my capacity, So this is a funny thing. So again, we're way up in this chalet on top of veteran podcast mountain. And then I'll jump into some Facebook group. And because I don't spend a lot of time on there, I'm unknown, and like, so someone was like saying, hey, how do I get on these lists, of best podcasts for veterans? And I said, you don't worry about lists. You just do your damn job. Right. And you might've been in this conversation, maybe even.
I know what you're talking about.
And they're like, Richard Kaufman. And Richard is awesome. He's been on my show. I've been on his show. I have no issue at all. Yeah, we all do. I mean, he's such a great dude. But you have someone in the thread, and I think you were in this thread, who can absolutely help you guide your podcast, but you don't take 2 minutes after I'm putting out real specific knowledge, and like, hey, who is this guy? I get it. You don't know me, but you can look it up and be like, holy shit.
Well, I think that's the ignorance of a lot of people. This turns into we've become such a lazy society that I'm going to believe so-and-so. And it doesn't matter if so-and-so says it's the truth or not. It's completely irrelevant. I'm just going to believe that because they're saying it and I know that person.
Yeah.
We have to start looking things into ourselves. And I say this because you're using a prime example. Like, hey, this X amount of person did this list. Okay, well, where is that list really coming from?
Right.
A lot of these lists that are out there, and I've been fortunate enough to be on several lists, and I'm grateful for that because it's got me some exposure. But those lists are usually, they're either how do I say this?
Just say it.
A lot of those lists are probably they're either sponsored by somebody, or it's that individual that knows those people that have created the list. And again, I've been on several lists through businesses and whatnot. Very blessed, and I'm grateful for it. I want to put that out there, that I'm truly grateful that somebody thought of me to be on a list. Do those lists matter when it all said and done? It might get you some exposure, but in a year, 6 months, you think people are going to remember that list?
Yeah, no. Well, there's another list out.
Right. No, I mean, you and I could create a list. Each of us could create our own list today, right now.
Yeah.
And then we could do that for the next 10 days and
Yeah.
be different people on every list that we create. So which
Yeah.
which list overrides the other ones? You don't really know.
Yeah.
It's
And
kind of like
I'll
the award ceremonies. I've never been a big fan of like these, awards or ceremonies and stuff like that, because
yeah.
it's kind of opinion. I'm the type of guy where it's just like, you need to be out there more. This was something you'll love this. Somebody told me yesterday, hey, you really should, for somebody that owns a network and whatnot, you really need to be out and pushing yourself more. Okay, great. That's your opinion.
Yeah.
And you're entitled to that.
Yeah.
I'm busy with my nose to the
Oh
ground
my God.
grinding.
Yes.
That's me. I don't need the attention, doesn't have to be on me. But again, that's just
Yeah.
my opinion.
I get a lot of advice where it involves me doing more work. Here's
Yeah.
what you need to do. Okay. Oh, is that what I need to do? I don't, and there's a lot of good
Because
advice.
I don't have enough work to do as it is already, and you're telling me
Yeah.
I need to do more. I
You need
appreciate
to send
that.
out more one sheets. I
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Do you want to do it? Oh, no. Oh, okay. Well, then just put $20 in the PayPal account and leave me alone. No, I mean, I don't want to be unfair to anybody. I always appreciate people's advice, especially if it comes from someone who
Absolutely.
knows a thing or two. And a lot of that stuff does make it into the show. Like I really go, oh, you know what? I should do that. I've redone the entire website a couple of times because someone's like, it's out of date. You need to go do it. And I probably need to do that now. Give myself some advice. But the amount of work that I've given by people who don't know what it takes to win in this business is incredible. And the amount of people that won't talk to me who are in this business, who I could help, they can help me, is also incredible. Like it's very closed off and very incestuous,
Well, I think it's selfish. It's too selfish, and it's too. And instead of many hands make light work, it's let's see how much work we can each hold ourselves without helping the other person. Like, listen, this podcasting thing. I used to be that guy. I used to be like, oh, I got to, keep I can't have a circle. I just got to be by myself. When you open up and you allow other people into your life to help you, holy crap, you would and then you start cross promoting shows and networks, and then hey, this would be a good guest. Hey, I got a guest for you, Pete. Blah blah blah. I mean, and you and I have done that. We've bounced people back and forth over the last couple of years, and it's just like it makes life so much easier. It's a big playground, folks, and you're just in a small section of it. There's enough room for everybody to play. So everybody just kind of calm down and let's work together. And if you do that, the world would be a lot better place.
I want to go back to lists temporarily and go back into these things while they're a little bit silly too. And again, this is not shade on anybody. It's all shine from me. But when you look at the lists, so I get introduced to someone that's got a list. Hey, this guy's got a list. Okay, well, I'll send an email, and I send the email to the guy. Don't really get a professional response, like in terms of a timely fashion, but that's fine. Whatever. Like we're just getting introduced. Doesn't know me. I don't know him. And then I'm like, hey, I filled the form out, submitting my show. No money involved. So I filled the form out, and then he finally hooks up, and he's like, hey, our list is for veteran shows. And I was like, I pulled the Paul McCartney on him. How much more veteran do you got to get? I am a veteran. I've had more veterans on than some people have entire episodes ever. Just because I have people who are non-veterans on the show doesn't make my show a I mean, I am the one doing the work. What's non-veteran about this? But and the point is not to hit this person because I hit them with that. I'm like, what's not veteran about the show? And if they decide we have on their list, great. I would be honored and it would be wonderful. But this is what these lists are, like people who don't know people. He hadn't looked my show up. He didn't say, wow, here's the thing. He doesn't know what a veteran show is if he can't include my show, or maybe he does, but he got to be able to communicate it clearly. So here's someone who's got a list. And if I'm on it, great. But if not, it's not the end of the world. If I'm not on his list, if I'm on his criteria, I'm not his criteria. But don't dismiss me as not being a veteran show without doing some homework, you know?
Right. Yeah. That, and again, I retract to my other statement about we've become a lazy society,
Yeah.
and people just don't want to look stuff up. If I make a list, great. If I don't,
Yeah.
guess what I'm going to be doing tomorrow? Same thing I was doing today, grinding.
Working hard on the things that are important to you. Yeah. And again, I bring that example up just to kind of illustrate, like, lists can be a bit silly. And if you're worried about it, it's awesome. It definitely picks you up and you get picked by somebody for doing a good job. But understand that there are too many shows for everybody to be on a list. And so, like, I don't think I've ever been on a list that I know of. Not the end of the world. I'm fine. I've also had an incredible list of people that are all Hall of Famers, or that are all, I mean, whatever, right? There's plenty of things you can do.
It's one of those, somebody asked me, like, well, who is Adam Bird? And I was kind of at a point where I was just having one of those days, like, just,
Yeah.
I was being an ass, quite frankly. That's what I was doing. So my response was, I'm the most famous person you've never heard of. that was,
I mean,
that's
yeah,
arrogant. Yeah, probably,
Yeah.
and it probably is. But
yeah. But there's arrogance and there's confidence, and
Right.
it's a wiggly line.
There's a fine line sometimes, and I'm not saying that to be arrogant by any means.
No, of course
and I'll let you guys judge that. That's fine. That's your opinion if you think so. But I say that because I have been doing this for a very long time. I've been successful at it. I've started this company from absolutely nothing, and I took a handful of dirt and I rubbed it together, and I was able to make a penny. And then from that, you rub the penny as hard as you can with some more dirt, and you try to make a nickel, and so forth. I didn't have any backing or anything when I started HMG. So, and that's not a pat on the back of me by any means. It's to really kind of press upon that I've been around for quite a while. Pete's been around for quite a while. So, you might not hear about us in the social media realms or whatnot. And that's probably because, well, we're just too damn busy.
Yeah.
We're not out there. We're not out there tooting our own horns or anything. And there's nothing wrong. And I'm not digging on anybody. I'm not digging on anybody. That's just, how I do it. So,
yeah, I mean, I know enough from doing this that I don't know enough things about enough things, and there's always more stuff to do. And I'm very fortunate to be here, but I'm also here because of the hard work that you've done, that I've done. I mean, if you're prepared to spend, again, 10,000 hours, no problem. That's how hard it is to get to where we are. If you're prepared to do that, then you're going to reap enormous benefits, but you have to pick something that you're willing to put 10,000 hours in on.
You know what, Pete? Here's another way of looking at this. Between you and I, and as long as you and I have been doing this, how many shows could we probably, and it would take us all day, I bet, to sit here and think about all the shows that are no longer doing shows that we've seen come and go over the years.
Yeah. No, it's 100%
here, So
that's why I kind of said Mike Ritland. Like, I want to say his name because he's notable, but he's not in the chalet with us. Like, if he is, we're in the champagne room, and we're hanging out with Jocko, and I'm sure there's someone I'm forgetting. And there was some wonderful veteran content out there.
Right.
But to get the gold jacket, you've got to hit certain things. And we've hit a lot of those marks. A lot of them. Yeah. People always ask me, who's your favorite guest? And it's like, come on, there are too many. Let me think of one right now. First off, I can only think of so many at a moment because there's been 1,000. But what if you picked up? How is your philosophy evolved because of the show and because of your networking and everything else?
As far as my philosophy, as far as like guests on shows,
no, just in general, like you've gleaned things from guests. You've had incredible people who've done insane things and thought through, and they've given you their best words to describe their incredible thing. And from that, you learn new things and you become a different Adam than you were 10 years ago. So how has your outlook on life changed because of the podcast?
I think it keeps things into perspective. I think hearing a lot of people, you might have those days. A lot of us were human, right? So we're all human, but I mean, we get that point where you might have a day and you hear the guest come on, you're like, man, I'm not the only one. Or I like those types of stories where he's just like, I'm not the only one, or holy crap, that person's come through all of this and they're still pushing forward. What do I have to complain about? Do you know what I mean? Those are I think those are just phenomenal stories, and I love hearing about those because they're motivating and they're very inspirational.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the things that, again, we get to sample because there are so many people that have come through impossible gauntlets. And I'm thinking about this guy, Jason, who was a cop in Phoenix, who had 5th degree burns and survived. 5th degree means that like bone has burned, right? And that's horrible. They thought he was dead. They thought they were pulling a dead dude out who smelled like charcoal when they pulled him out of his cop car. And he made it. So when we look around at all these problems, whatever the side of the Pepe Le Pew thing you're on, you're not on fucking fire in your cop car at work,
right?
You know, so chill the fuck out,
right?
Find what you need to do and get back to work. Because if you make your world a better place, and if your world is a great place, and this I always say this about charity, then you need to be doing charity. And charity is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be hard. These are hard problems to solve. So get your house in order. Start to help someone else, because it's not every boat rides with the tide, because that means that every boat sinks with the tide.
Right.
It's many hands make light work. And if we all work on these things together and we just focus on truly helping one another, you've heard us mock a lot of things that come to us because these are people that aren't ready. I know, Adam, this is true for him because we've said it already. I'm desperate for you to create something. Maybe it's you need to go play the guitar. Maybe you do need a podcast. Maybe you need to write screenplays, whatever it is. But you have to do it. And I'm glad to help you do it if I can put a hand in there. But if I can't help you, if I can't see where to put my hand in, I can't help you do your show.
And I'm going to add to that, Pete, if I can.
Please.
Because Pete might not be able to help you with the show, but he might be able to help you with something else in your life.
Yeah.
Just because of his network. And the same goes with me. Like we might not, the show, we may tell you, you shouldn't be doing a show. Let's be honest. So you shouldn't be doing a show. You need to be doing something else. And we'll help you.
And I may ask you for money when I say that. You should be giving me money. But I'm only being honest. You know?
Right. No, absolutely. But that's just it. You know, with our network and stuff like that, again, it ties in with purpose. And that's, I am a firm believer of the reason why we are here, even today, is because we've put other people, really, we've put a lot of people before even ourselves. And that's okay. We you know, if we weren't okay with it, we wouldn't be doing what we love to do. Can
I say one? Do you have like 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the other things too, I think it's important for all of us to realize, and I've learned this through the show, is one, don't assume no is the answer from someone, no matter how famous they are.
Oh yeah.
So many times people have said, it's funny, you should ask. And then whatever it was I asked for, I just asked. And so they said yes. The other thing is if someone asks you for an introduction, give them the introduction. And if you're uncomfortable giving them the introduction, because there are times when I do filter it through me, it's because there's some element of trust that's missing. Work on that. Understand who that person is and give them the introduction, you know? And if you're not willing to, just say, I can't. I don't know them well enough. I don't know how to bridge that gap. Introductions should be a gift to two people that should know each other. And that's how I treat it. It's not a hard and fast rule. I can break it by exception because certain people don't need to be contacted by everybody, you know, but that's only because of the network that we have and the incredible people that we deal with. I can't flood someone's inbox with some, but I will tell you how to get there. I will work with you on it, but it may not be a direct introduction, but that is by far the exception over a good, warm, healthy, thoughtful, written out. If you ever had me introduce you, you've been like, holy shit, Jesus Christ, Pete thinks a lot of me.
Hype man. That's my hype man right there. Pete's my hype man when he does any types of introduction. I know who I need a hype man, you know.
Well, I mean, and that's what you owe that person. They ask you for this favor. You do the fucking introduction right. You don't half-ass it. I mean, look, sometimes I'm like, hey, I don't have any time. Adam meet Jason, Jason meet Adam. You know, I'll introduce you to Jason, who wrote that book, Casper, and it'll be quick. Because I can't always write good ones, but if I'm really leaning on it, and I try to almost every time, you're gonna feel something because I care about who I'm introducing people to.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on introductions?
No, I'm the same way, man. It's if you have somebody that's asking for an introduction, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm so busy with everything. I try to be a little humorous. Recently, I introduced my roaster to somebody that's looking to roast their own blend of coffee. So I had introduced, and I joke around with my roaster a lot. West Point grad. So I said, don't hold it against him because he's a West Point grad. So you might have to give him some direction on land nav and stuff like that. But I said, and he likes long walks in the dark, in the woods by himself. Not weird at all. I said that in the introduction with a smiley face, and both of them fired back at me, busting me up, and it was funny. And I say that I got away with that because I knew the two,
right?
And then I don't always do that. Some are very serious. Hey, this is so and so. This is what they do. Kind of like what you said. Know the two people that you're connecting and how they are, and if the introduction calls for light and some humorous, by all means do it, because it builds that trust, in my opinion, and it builds that relationship. And those two that you introduce are going to remember that you introduced them, and they're going to be appreciative. So when you ask for, if that time comes where you have to ask for a favor or whatnot, they don't even hesitate. They're like, oh, anything you need, man, let me know.
All right, stand by.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much.